All right, so we are live for our monthly LinkedIn live show with Alexandre BLANC and I are co-host this show called Smart Tech PS, and we have the Data Diva as our featured guest, Debbie Reynolds. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. This
Yeah.
is very exciting.
Yeah. This is, and as we were discussing before we went live, I mean, there's no prep needed for this because you guys live and breathe this every single day, right? So this is going to be fun. Let me hit the comments to make sure that we keep a tab on who's here and want to ask some questions. Feel free to comment. Everything goes. So this is about data. So right up your alley, Debbie, right? And Alexander, I know you post about this all the time.
Yes.
So let's start with the first order of business, right? Which is I did not know, right? And that's where everybody comes from, right? Whether it's smart speaker, a smart refrigerator, whether it's saying accept to cookies. So let's start with you, Debbie. It's like, and feel free to chime in, Alexander. It's like, how do you get past that I do not know, the ignorance piece?
Education never stops, and it also doesn't stop at work. So one thing I tell people, talk to your family. I know they probably think you're probably the tech support person anyway for your family, right? For whatever reason, if you're in technology, they think you know every technology job there is. Talk with your family, talk to your parents or grandparents. Try to get your grandparent on two-factor authentication. You'd be surprised. Even, I remember one time my father, he's no longer with us, but he called me one day and said that he changed his insurance or something. And I'm like, what? Like I handle all his stuff. And it's like, you just basically been scammed. Someone took your social security number or whatever. And it's like, it can happen in a flash. You know what I mean? So just like some crazy phone call that convinces someone to give up information that they didn't, the person didn't have before. And then, I think a lot of people, they assume that a lot of people have good intentions, and that's not a good assumption to make, because I get tons of scam calls, and I know other people, I know that they're not true, a lot of them, but not everyone knows that. So I think just be vigilant, talk to people, make sure that they understand. And, even though it seems like every day there's like a new scam out there, most of the time it's something that you didn't ask for. And it's something that they want you to do something right away. So it has an urgency to it, and it's something that was unexpected. It came out of the blue.
That's very true. And one thing also that I face when I try to raise awareness on that side, is when we speak to people that are not in the tech world, because for us, that's everyday thing. It's like normal, and we get to know about privacy. But on their side, technology is just a tool for a lot of them. And they don't see why or how there could be like malicious approach, even on a phone call, because we get a lot of phishing lately. And, they're just like nice people trying to behave politely and respond to people. But sadly, we come with the burden of what it is, and like you get to be paranoid. and it's not easy on a daily basis to doubt about everything, because, in security and privacy, we end up, verifying everything, double-checking, fact-checking, and we're also target because we come public. I think, Debbie, you face the same stuff. Right. Because we speak out. We got people targeting us as well. And it's something that most, like, I would call normal people do not worry about too much. But that also make them an easy target, and this is why we need to raise awareness. But again, and this is what I like what we do with Ashwin right here, we try to speak the common language. We don't speak about technological stuff. We don't speak to CISO or whatever. We speak to real life people. Why your stolen data is an issue, how your identity can be stolen, and you can have your insurance being scammed, and your money, your anything can happen, and that's a consequence. Like, the worst thing on my side is people that are answering, I have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
But then that one, it's so
that's
common.
The worst. That hurts. Yeah. Every time I hear someone say that, that's very painful to hear.
So one thing, again, Alexander, as you were saying, because this is something that hit home as you were speaking, which is normal people doing normal everyday stuff, right? And literally I heard about this morning, so it's still fresh in my mind. So this person posts on Facebook about some new Netflix show that he's waiting for, right? The Netflix show comes, and his time zone is known. And so the attacker actually goes after his bank account while the Netflix show is going on, and 2FA is enabled. And what does he do? I want to watch the show. So I said yes to that, right? So they've actually gone ahead and approved something, knowing that he's going to be distracted while that show is going on over here, right? So it again comes back to how do you constantly, again, both of you were talking about this, right? Like being on the visual, you can't, I mean, how do you be aware of stuff 24/7? We all have our low points. I have a few examples. I know, Alexander, you have one too, where we are a little bit more exposed than we normally would be, right? And then how do you maintain vigil all the time?
I think one thing is don't do anything. So if you get an email and they say you have to do this and do, oh my God, this is going to happen if you don't do this. Don't do anything and then see what, well, nothing happens. So, hey. So just, I tell people sort of stop, wait, think a bit, slow down. Because if it's really important, they're going to call you again. You know what I mean? Or someone else is going to call you. So if you're suspicious, don't do anything.
No, that's right. I mean, anything that come unsolicited, any communication that you did not initiate, I mean, you can ignore. It's going to call back. And you will know, unless this is someone you know, and you can recognize on the way. Also, deep fake stuff can to be advanced, but that you have to be like a really a target of interest to spend so much energy, faking everything. Right. So basically, refuse any communication. Call back to a number or to the contact that is supposed to happen, but there is no need, basically no emergency. I mean, why would it be any? And and then it's gonna avoid a lot of issues. And
I saw something last night that this is crazy. Okay, so this is just taking advantage of beacons and emails. So basically, a company send out an email and they'll put like they say they want you to call back for something or whatever, and they put a code in it. So a code and a phone number. So when you call a phone number, they ask for the code, and once they ask for the code, they know exactly who you are. So they didn't know that before until you picked up the phone and called them and gave them the code, and now they know more than what you told them in the first place. So I don't know. I just brought that up.
So we have somebody over here making a comment. I yell at them. They're afraid.
Oh yeah.
He says what? He does what?
He yells at them. If you look at the comments, I yell at them, Debbie. They're afraid. Hey, that works too, right? So again, going to the data piece, and this is something again that's happened literally over the course of the last week or so, right? I'm in California, so we're probably the most backward state when it comes to vaccinations, right? So, and again, to be fair, the largest populous state in the country and so forth, right? But net of it is there's vaccinations that are starting to happen right now, and I have 3 different sites. One asking for name, phone number, date of birth, mother's maiden name. The other asking for a name, date of birth. The third one asking just for the name. And I'm thinking to myself, here is the exact same J&J vaccine that's going to be delivered by these 3 locations. And yet, here you are asking for deep PI information, average PI information, and little to no information, right? Why? And again, I mean, regulations is not going to solve this. So again, is it consumer activism? Again, back to your point, is it? And obviously, the person who's desperate for a vaccine, which I guess lots of people are, well, I'm going to give my mother's maiden name. Why?
Right. Yeah. And too, because a lot of these, so we have a unique issue in the US where we don't have universal healthcare. So not everyone is in the medical system, right? So a lot of this vaccination and stuff that happens if you don't have a healthcare provider is really not it's not protected, right? Under HIPAA or anything like that. So people can ask you anything. And once you get the information over, you have no control over it.
Yeah, Alexander, I mean, so from a Canadian perspective, I mean, what are you seeing in that region versus the US? And are people more vigilant and aware? Is it because of universal healthcare? Is it because of other reasons?
I think they are not more vigilant at all. Thing is, we're late on vaccination, especially in Quebec. They took an approach saying like the elderlies first, and then they go down by range of ages, so we're kind of late. I think like 65 and plus so far, so I'm not in that range. So I don't know about the information on that side, but I've been through that other, I had some basic private medical care where they will ask you the information on a Google form, like all the medical background you have to fill online, and they use the Google form to get that delivered to their stuff, but that doesn't work. But if you want to go to that clinic, you have to fill that stuff. So I'm like, no, I don't want that. So on my side, because I didn't want to leave any track, I used poisoned information as much as could do, and confirmed by phone. And I didn't take my phones with me and anything, so there was no track of me moving on that spot. But that's an issue, because if you want to use that system, you're forced, to do that stuff. And when you have, like, especially medical thing, as you said, there is a sense of urgency. So this is typically where we lower our defenses, like one of the key scam approach. So you want a vaccine, and people, they have the focus on that. And now, what about how easy it will be to make a fake vaccination website in any state? And you advise, and it's something very common right now. Imagine the amount of information you can gather on people that are not aware, social security number, and then the amount of fake ID, and then steal the identity, because people don't realize, like, when we get that information, especially if you do cross-state thing, because I don't think in the state, it's like in province in Canada, they do not communicate very well in between. So you may mount a scan with one identity in as many states as you like, and play that with the banks and stuff, like credit, apply for a driver license, get that in the States, and then do all kind of stuff. So basically, one identity is like as many states' opportunity to abuse it.
Right.
And just
so true.
Yeah. So and this is just surfing on a trend like COVID stuff right now. Fake COVID vaccination site. This is sure people are gonna fill that stuff.
Yeah.
So how can you handle that? You saw, Ashwin, you sent us that transcription of communication between you and the site where they do not reply about privacy policies. So how can we, get something done, but not being abused? This is very challenging for normal people, like even for us, like being aware. On our side, it's even like frustration. Because how bad it can go, but we have no right or specific power to escape that crap.
Right. I tell people, search out yourself. So don't, when someone is offering you something, don't go for that. Or even like when you're on YouTube and said, "Oh, we suggest this video," don't click on that. Like, go search yourself for different things. It'll take you down a different rabbit hole, right? So
that is what Alexander mentioned, right? Just data poisoning. It's like,
yeah. I used to do that as a kid. Remember when they send you the postcards where you get the CDs? I would put different names just to see what would come back in the mail. I'm like, oh, that's how they got my data or whatever. Because I was just curious about who gets the data, how is it shared, how's it come around. So I've been doing that since I was a kid.
So one other thing, Alexander, shout out for you.
Yes.
They're going to hide in plain sight and prey on desperation.
Yeah.
Oh,
sure.
absolutely.
This is the main. I mean, there was a French politician, an ex-president, that said something like, "The bigger it is, the most likely it's going to work." So that's a recipe for scams. In plain sight. You hide in plain sight in the middle, and especially when you have such big event that go worldwide with the news and the press, like the pandemic is an ideal situation for that.
Absolutely.
And so many details and options for criminals that have an agenda to achieve something. I mean, you can go through hospital, vaccination, testing, and then all the stuff that each thing that each state or government come with, like, the COVID passport vaccination card and stuff. I mean, you have tons of these on sale and dark web, and then some fake website as well. Because I don't know if it's the case in the US, but if you come back to Canada after traveling, you need to have a proof of a clean test before boarding the plane. And then you need to show that at the custom when you get in. And when you get in, you need to go in a state-defined or provincial-defined hotel for your quarantine,
Yeah.
which is actually crazy expensive. So, so that's opening so many opportunities. I mean, each requirement is an open door for abuse.
Right, because I mean, it's not coordinated state to state, right? So how would you even know that the person's vaccination is valid or not? I mean, I can see that like a fake ID thing. That would be interesting. I'm sure people are doing that, because how would you verify that from place to place when they're different?
Yeah, so one thing, again, sticking on to healthcare, and this is something that I encountered, I think, about a year and a half ago, right? Where, again, Alexander, back to your point, this was I think, a medical facility, I forget exactly what kind, but I had to fill out a paper form. And they wanted my social security number, right? And again, back to your point, I needed an X-ray. It was late in the evening. So I gave it to them, right? In full consciousness. And then I started asking them to delete my data. And guess what? They're asking me 10 more intrusive questions for them to actually identify who Ashwin is so they can actually delete my data. And at that point, I said, so again, this is back to, again, talking about an activist mindset. Even I could not delete my data. They still have my data. I don't know whether it's in digital form or whether it's in paper form. But again, is regulation the answer? Because clearly activism didn't work in this case, and they're asking for more data. I will not give it to them. So then, where do we go from here?
Oh my God, this is so hard. This is such a hard question. Unfortunately, the divide and conquer is working. So the fact that so many, even on a business level, if someone, let's say a business has a cyber issue, they call in someone like Alex who helps them solve it. They don't really want to say, oh my God, we have this issue, and let me help other businesses not fall into the same thing. So this, the bad actor goes from place to place, and they can play this scam almost everywhere because there just isn't enough sharing about the information. So, every week there's always some new thing, and my phone, they have been blowing up my phone with scams. It's ridiculous. Some of the things they come up with. A lady called me today, and she sounds very, these people are really good. So they're very good at sounding convincing, right? So this lady called me today and said she was calling from Visa, MasterCard. I'm like, what bank are you talking about? Oh, from Visa, MasterCard. I'm like, okay, we're over. We're done with this call. So, but I mean, people fall for that.
So Alexander, I know you propose, again, going back to what can an average consumer do, right? I know you're a big proponent of don't keep all your eggs in one basket, right? For a consumer, I mean, how does he or she deal with having, like I said, you said Google Docs versus, and then having I don't know, people still use Yahoo email or not, I don't know. But the point is, how do you disperse where you're messaging and how you're using sharing documents versus email? Is there a way that can be kept up?
It's a challenging question. I'm a fan of Proton Mail because it's all encrypted and private. So if I have to keep some data, I would most likely use Proton Mail. There is Tutanota, another private email solution. So that's good for keeping your own stuff. You have MFA, it's encrypted, and you know that when you communicate with messaging that support encryption, like ProtonMail to ProtonMail, it's going to be encrypted, and ProtonMail to some other encrypted one as well. So that's a very good one. But most people have no idea, why and how, because they don't know, if you use Gmail or whatever else cloud open stuff, the data is mined. It's used for AI, machine learning. The added value they sell to you is suggestion, targeted ads, or advice, the spam detection stuff. But it's too expensive for price to just get these features. I use ProtonMail. I have a spam filter in it, and I'm fine with that, And in regard to document sharing stuff, actually, ProtonMail just came with Proton Drive. It's getting out, so that's cool. But aside of that, so far on my side, but this is because I'm a tech guy, I host my own Nextcloud, and I share my stuff through my own Nextcloud. So that's easy. But I understand that not everybody can do that, so you need to assess what tool you have available. So you have some privacy-oriented tools, again, Proton Drive will be one of these. I don't know, Debbie, if you have any service that you will use and how you handle that, because on my side, I will use my Nextcloud. My data stay with me. I handle my backup. I handle my update. But I understand like normal people that do not work in tech. I say normal people, but let's say people that do not work in tech.
People, for the most part, people and companies know this. People do whatever is easiest for them.
Correct.
So the thing that's the easiest for them, that's probably another reason why phishing attacks are just out of bounds, because they're like, oh, I didn't have to search for this. Someone just was nice enough to send me an email, and I'm going to click on this link and get this, service that I didn't search for or whatever. So I think, definitely education is key, but I think one thing that we can tell people to do just in general is to share less. If you don't have to share it, you shouldn't. I get on my boyfriend's case because he is the type of person, he'll start to offer information that people didn't ask for. I'm like, what are you doing? I don't know. Maybe he watches too many movies or something. But I'm like, why would you tell them that? Like, you don't know those people, or, so I'm more of a tinfoil hat person where he's just more, more trusting in some ways than I am. But I think, not everybody needs to know that you're going to Cancun in 2 weeks, or that you had a turkey sandwich for lunch. So I think just trying to minimize what you put out there, minimize what you put out there that you think can be used against you in some way. So, Alex and I, we put a lot of stuff out, right? We put out stuff mostly about education and stuff like that. Because I think that type of stuff is helpful. But I think for me, I've always been very private in my personal life, just because that's just the way that I am. That's the reason why I'm really passionate about it. So I'm like, don't give them more information. So I don't know about you, but I really like the caper and the heist movies, or the things about, social engineering, because people fall for these tricks so many times. And it's always like, again, something that you didn't ask for that comes your way. And they can entice you to engage you in conversation, or like, kind of draw you in. And that's how it happens. And that's what they're doing at scale on the technology level.
And speaking about data collection, sometimes it's not like direct stuff like that. Like, all these personality tests that you get on social media, especially Facebook side of things, this is data collection. The result doesn't matter. The only agreement between the editor of the app is data collection, access to a profile, gender, location, work, and all the answer you provide. I mean, when we were teenagers, you got all these news, newspaper for teens, where you have questionnaire about your personality. Have I had, did I have a relation with blah 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 blah, and you would check. But the real reason for that thing was for parents to spy on the kids and know what's happening, especially when there are teens, because communication channel is cut. So that was already some kind of social engineering. Because all the stuff, like, they leave the news, and the mother would say, to the daughter, or that to son, when you're done, may I read your stuff? And all the mark on the questionnaire was actually a nice data collection. And that was in the family, so it was kind of smart way to take the pulse of the life of the kids. But now, with social media stuff, it's a massive, wide data collection with a lot of tracking. So I don't like that. And two things I see as a trend right now, three things actually, two bad and one give me hope. Two first things is at work. Like, I saw my wife now working, they did place that time tracking application. So they have to clock in and clock out. And that app that they want to all the employees to be installed on the mobile is actually requiring access to location at all time, all move, all sensors, Wi-Fi information, and it will record every single move. So obviously my wife ran a phone that has restricted and sandboxing on it. It's a Graphene OS Android fork. And when she did install the application, the app would not work, because there is no Google services, no access to anything, and everything is sandbox, cannot cross-communicate. So it was like white screen. And I said, well, fine, that means that this app isn't actually spyware. So no way. But most people did install it without realizing that thing, and I watch about the privacy term and condition, they locate you all day long, 1 meter definition. So it's incredible. And you have to accept that because the work asks for it. So people are trapped. And it's not even a phone that is provided by the organization. So,
right.
Yeah, so that's one negative point that I see. And I see the usual, big corporation above the laws. So basically, this is just the cost of doing business. When they get regulation, the fine even high are too low for them. So that's negative side of things. But the positive thing is that this is an article I shared a couple of days ago that was a trend on LinkedIn, and I was happy to see that as a trend. People lose trust in technology and big technology corporation. And I think this is amazing because we are adding, this is backfiring. All these abuse start to reach a point where people do not want that crap.
Right.
So one of the topics we were supposed to speak about was smart speaker and location tracking and stuff. But I was kind of desperate seeing that people would buy these 24/7 spying devices, especially when once Amazon, they did offer the smart speaker to all university in the US. It was for the dorm rooms before COVID and so. And you know why they do that? Because there are innovation coming in universities. So basically, they could spy on innovation, and no student had a chance to bring a project. And if you think about that, like Facebook, it was born in university. So, and if you steal the ideas before they even become a business case, first of all, you steal the future of the student because they have no chance to succeed. What's happening now? Big corporation in technology, they grow by acquisition.
Right, that's true.
So, and they buy business that's already in place and grew. But it goes even further when an organization, which is a data collection company like Amazon, because people don't see that as a data collection. As you see now, they even have tracking camera on the trucks. They actually, we've been blaming Google Street View because they've been breaking into the Wi-Fi of people. And now Amazon come with the same camera on the truck. So they will record every move and they have face recognition on it. So it's extremely invasive.
Yeah.
And so when I see businesses doing that, I'm like, okay, how can we escape that? But at the same time, it's moving. There is a growing stuff. And what happens if we don't get regulation? We will get regulation, but government is always low. It's a slow old dinosaur.
Right.
And there is a lot of lobbyism right now. These big tech companies have billions. They control the market. So, and they control the finance of government. So, if one say, no, we're going to stop your business, it's going to be tough. So I like something in the US that we don't have in any place in the same way. It's the antitrust approach, which I think is the only salvation we will have on privacy. And the more we share awareness and the more consumer actually react to that instead of being enslaved and following FOMO, like fear of missing out, the more we're going to have chance to get a change coming, because it's going to open a door of privacy-focused products. It's coming. It's not the biggest brand right now. But if the market of privacy-focused solution grow enough, it's going to show something, and maybe it's going to collapse the actual spy economy crap.
No, actually, so one thing you mentioned, I'm going to give this example and then open it up, right? Which is exactly what you were saying, right? And talk about this, I think, in 3 or 4 different conferences, right? And one was actually a privacy conference hosted by Microsoft, and it was about, I think it was a national or World Privacy Day, right? Jan, 28, 29. So I've exercised my GDPR rights with LinkedIn 3 years or 4 years in a row. And they've done a phenomenal job, right? Everybody is a EU citizen as far as LinkedIn goes. Everybody gets GDPR rights, except it's very simple to use, and they give you your CSV file within half hour and the second one within 24 hours, right? Every single time. And the amazing thing is, just like both of you, probably not as frequent, but I'm reasonably frequent on LinkedIn, it always causes me to halt, because now it's like I'm seeing life in fast, like it's almost like a speed data all compressed, and saying, hey, this is the shit that I've put out over the last 5 years, right? And it's overwhelming, right? And for a number of reasons. One is, if somebody gets access to that, they could actually look at this. There's no need for AI or anything. Oh yeah, he was talking about this. He doesn't care about this shit anymore. He's talking about this. His network has changed. Number of people who commenting has changed. So all data is there. But I think from an awareness perspective, right, it just brings me to, again, back to your points, both of you were saying, right, you're consciously putting out stuff that you believe in and that you think has a positive impact, versus Debbie, your boyfriend, talking about stuff that he may forget tomorrow, but then the data collectors don't forget, right? So just bringing that remembrance back, I think for me at least, was awakening. But again, any thoughts on what does an average consumer do to really feel what he or she has been doing? When you see this all in cumulative form, it really hits home, right? But is there some opportunity for a consumer awakening?
Yeah, that's a big question. You know what? Not the thing that concerns me, a lot of things concern me about data collection, but it sort of tries to make everything that you talk about seem equally as important. So if you had a ham sandwich yesterday, that's as important as you put some, great work up on. There's like no way to sort of differentiate the importance of that. So, maybe you forgot that you had a ham sandwich 3 years ago, but Google didn't forget. So that's problematic, I think, in some ways. But, one of the things that concerns me, I'm obviously concerned about things like facial recognition. I've talked about that with deep fakes and stuff like that. But one thing is really, really concerning me now is like location data. So I don't know if you heard that. I don't know if it's Facebook. Someone is doing some AI on YouTube videos. And to me, I think part of that is around getting the metadata and location information about people. People don't understand how important or how telling location data is about people. So I think having all these different devices and tools and speakers and trackers everywhere that you go, like, these companies can actually have like a full view of every single thing that you do. And, that is concerning, because I think, I wish we had more anonymity than like we had growing up. And I think that's sort of gone now. Unless you're like Alex, you can find a way to, you're kind of swimming upstream, right? Because the stream is going the other way. You're going in the opposite direction. Say, okay, I'm going to make a conscious decision not, to choose something different for email, or to choose a different way that I back up my data, or choose, not take my phone with me, or, different things. So I think, a lot of that back again is to awareness. And then, I don't know, I'm concerned about antitrust. I agree. The antitrust is probably the biggest hammer that the government in the U.S. can swing, but it doesn't really, my concern about laws in the U.S. is that a lot of them are very old, so they existed way before technology. So trying to stuff this new stuff into like these old laws is just not working, I don't think. So I think being able to have regulation and update it so that it makes more sense around technology. And I feel like there's a school of thought that, that the law should be the same regardless of the technology. And I'm like, well, the problem with that is that technology is creating new harms that did not exist before. So I think that's why the law needs to be updated. So it's not like, every time a new smart speaker comes out, let's create a smart speaker law. It's like, let's think about what harm can happen when this data is collected from a private person in their home. And, does this, your private conversations you have in your house, go to your employer? Does it go on a credit report? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much almost clandestine data collection that we just don't know what happens with that data. And because it's collected in that way, they don't necessarily have to tell you that they got it.
Yeah.
So
very
that
true.
is also concerning. So like where you turn down from a job because something that you said to a friend, and maybe you could have been joking, technology that can't really detect sarcasm very well either.
Yeah,
So
that's
they're
very
like, "Oh
true.
my God, he said that." It's like, "Oh, I'm just joking," So, but I'm also concerned about the surveillance devices that people bring into their house. So, I was very much in favor of Amazon when they got the drone license in the U.S. where they can drop off packages with drones. So I was happy about that. But then I think they created this thing where they have drones that fly in your house and sort of look around, and so I'm not happy with that. So
No.
it's like I like technology and I like to use it, but to me, you have to balance it, right? You have to decide, what's the trade-off, and am I willing to give up, that type of privacy for this innovation? Like I don't have smart speakers because for me, a smart speaker would need to like go wash my car before I would think that it was important. Because I can't tell you to do something that's important enough for me to want to have a smart speaker.
I agree.
Yeah. So one
And-
last question again, Alexander. I know you have the thought in your head, but I wanted to put this out there as is this even reasonable? I know you talked about privacy-focused products, right? Is there a possibility? I know there's at least a few companies that I've talked to the founders who are in this realm of building a platform which allows for you and me as consumers, not techies, to be able to trade their data for value. So I'll just leave it out there. Alexander, I know you have lots of thoughts on that.
I have someone on my podcast next week talking about data monetization.
Oh, yeah?
That would be interesting. Yeah. So yeah, look, Alexander, please tell us what you think.
Because of my background, I value privacy more than anything else. And when I say that and I speak about privacy, a lot of people comment on LinkedIn that privacy no longer exists. And I'm well aware of that. But it's not because it has been taken away that we should give up on that. Because that's, because to me, and we spoke about that last time, privacy is freedom. If you don't have that, you have no free thinking, because if we know everything about you, we know all the triggers that allow to play with your mind. And there have been a lot of psychological studies that, we are pretty simple animal, complex and simple at the same time, and we react in some kind of way that we can easily manipulate. Yeah. So if we know everything about you, and people know because I share a lot, Debbie as well, on LinkedIn, and they know what drives me nuts. They know when I reply and I'm fed up, So
let me think. Cloud connected.
Yeah, it's more like given the type of thing people type and the way I reply, I know the machine know exactly what lever to pull to make me realize, to make me angry, to stress me out, and I'm well aware of it, but it's still working. So, and that's like that video, we speak about awareness, but there was that Netflix movie about the social media thing that
social
was
dilemma.
Social dilemma. So like social media platform and big tech do not even hide, or they hide in plain sight, making that a movie in Netflix, so as it goes in the same brain storage as any science fiction stuff that you watch. It's like, I think it's a strategical move, pretending to bring awareness, like how bad it is, but at the same time you watch other sci-fi movies, and then the brain is like, oh, I was on Netflix, and there is a natural laziness of the brain, and as long as we don't see the threat directly, we have an easy way to ignore everything, and that's the natural behavior of humans. So the real power of data collection is not something that people can realize unless their life experience has put them under spotlight or as a target, and they've been either chased or threatened, under threat, and then you realize how bad it is. So I don't think, awareness is good because people will understand why and how communication is taking place, and if one day we need to try to escape from that, it's good that they know how and why. But I don't have much hope on the fact that we can avoid the data collection, or we can avoid the evolution of technology and innovation, which is now fed by data. It's big data, AI, enhancement, automation, and lazy brains of humans. We like convenience. So if something is served automatically and it matches your needs,
you take it.
are not going to will to give up on that. So it's ambiguous. So we should know how it can be weaponized, and we should rely on best practices, boundaries, regulation to protect an obvious manipulation, although we will not be able to take down the existing big manipulation. This is sad, but this is what it is. So I'm well aware. I speak about cloud. I know I will not take down the cloud. I would love to but what I want people to be aware of what it is, and to make aware decision. The data-driven decision. Everybody speak about that, but make aware decision. Know what kind of risk, and do your own risk assessment. And the key point is, don't put other people, or don't take other people with you when you decide to take a risk. Because what happened right now, we saw that with the medical discussion. If a medical institution decide to take a risk, then it should not be forced on people. Same thing with the organization. We should have a way to escape. So my only goal in my move and communication about privacy and stuff is for the people that want to care or need to be protected, because there are many people who need to be protected. They should have the possibility to do so, know how to escape the system. Just keep that as an option for people who want to stay, in a way, free. I know it's not bulletproof. Like, I have a mobile phone, and I know the localization is laying in the protocol that the mobile phone need to connect to the cell towers. There is a triangulation. This is the way roaming works across poles, so you cannot escape that stuff. The mobile operator will know where you are. But we should have enough security control and mechanism and law and regulation so as that cannot be easily weaponized by third party. And same thing, the correlation of information. I mean, it should not be allowed for that information to be sold and then reconciliated in a big database that give you a full detail of someone, because I think it's a threat. It's a national security issue, because foreign actor, anyone that is against the nation will buy this data. This is an economical situation. So you can build as a foreign and potentially malicious agenda ahead. You can buy all the pattern of everybody and build a strategical plan. That was the question of the election, manipulation stuff. So at a certain point, government and state must understand that, yes, visibility is something, but at the same time, it can backfire, and it's backfiring. We saw all the hack and breaches and stuff. So I think we need a culture of privacy and security, even if privacy is dead for now, because it's not only protecting individual, but it's also allowing nation to protect themselves in the end. So the scope is much broader than just my privacy, what I buy at the supermarket, and what is recorded by my credit card. And Google bought all the MasterCard receipts, so they know what you buy with the credit card. But the issue is when they sell that information to foreign countries with much wider agenda. When you have your medical profile, the medical allergy of everybody, and what can kill everybody, which is not illegal. It's not a weapon, like people allergic to banana. All right, you know how to eliminate these guys. You see what I mean? So, and that's the power of data being weaponized using non-weapon to achieve massive destruction with a non-weapon path. So this is why I want to speak about awareness. This is why privacy matters. You don't want to be in a system where we just have to push one button and get rid of you.
Right.
And without any violence or whatever. So easy,
Right.
So Debbie, take us home.
Oh, wow. You put a lot of pressure on me. I don't know. I mean, I am very passionate about privacy and sort of educating people, because I think they should make a informed decision. I saw The Social Network, and I knew a lot of the stuff that they were doing. But one of the things that happened in the movie that disturbed me quite a lot was the psychological manipulation. You know, the boy in the movie that he had broke up with his girlfriend, and so AI, he wasn't like interacting. So AI was like, "Oh, look, look at what your girlfriend is doing now." And I'm thinking, that if I had to deal with that when I was like in high school or whatever, I'd be totally like devastated. You know what I'm saying? Because children are very impressionable and they think everything is about them and all this other type of stuff. So, I mean, that could be very damaging, not only to kids or teenagers, but adults as well, where, they are taking actions based on something that's not true. So that's what we're seeing a lot in, a lot of these political debates where they take you down a path and you can only see, what they want to show you, which is not the truth. People think that they think that all of us see the same things and we don't, on the internet. So I think, vigilance is key, trying to make sure that you're making a wise choice. So if you want to have that smart speaker, just know kind of what they collect and decide whether you think is worth it to you or not. I think all of us have to make those decisions. But the problem is that the tech companies and the products that they have, they seem so inviting to people, and they don't want to, it's a situation like, have this innovation now and it's easy, and then we'll delay the harm until much later. So you don't think about, you're not harmed immediately, but the harm comes way later, and they've had their money already, so they don't really care about that. So
we should come up with this HOI, harm on investment, right? It's like,
right.
This has been great conversation again. Awesome. I think actionable items, right? Just stay vigilant. Don't react. I think that's a great one, right? Don't react to anything instantly. You can always pause. Don't have to respond to an email or a phone call. And then the awareness piece. I think that's super, super important. And I love what, for those of you who are watching, please do follow Debbie and Alexander. I mean, at a minimum, you will learn a lot, but I think what I'm hoping is through your learning, you can also educate others. And I think that's ultimately the key. So thank you for your time, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was nice to see you both.
Bye.
Definitely.